For her, the one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport, more people want to watch.
Basketball should have been the only thing dominating the headlines, but somehow the referees ended up recording a controversy triple-double of their own. Caitlin Clark takes a shot to the face, the whistle seems to vanish completely, and suddenly LeBron James looks like he has seen enough. And when one of the biggest athletes on the planet starts paying attention to a missed call in a WNBA game, you know this has turned into something much bigger than one routine officiating mistake. So what exactly happened that pushed the conversation to that point? And why are so many fans now saying the WNBA may have a far...
Where was all the outrage on this one? Breanna Stewart came over to help on defense, blocked Caitlin Clark's shot, and then
It almost felt like the basketball gods picked the worst possible weekend to test the WNBA's biggest storyline. Less than 24 hours after Caitlin Clark turned in a performance that instantly secured a place in league history, the entire discussion somehow drifted away from breathtaking passes.
The thing I wanted to bring up was just, I don't want to call it hatred, but there's definitely...
Instead, the basketball world woke up debating whistles, missed calls, and one question that refuses to go away no matter how often people try to move past it. At what point does letting them play stop being praised as toughness and start looking like a refusal by officials to enforce the game consistently?
So it looked like Caitlin Clark has found herself in another situation following another game. This time it's involving Breanna Stewart.
That argument erupted all over again on July 19, 2026, when the Indiana Fever hosted the defending champion New York Liberty.
Caitlin Clark went up for a layup Saturday night against the New York Liberty. Breanna Stewart blocked the shot, but she also slapped her across the face. No foul was called. A referee appeared
Instead, it turned into yet another entry in the growing controversy that has followed Clark for weeks, leaving fans, analysts, former players...
Last night, they were egregious. We have a dude, number 42, Rich Jelly Bean or String Bean or...
By this point in the season, the conversation had already expanded far beyond Indiana. It seemed like every nationally televised Fever game produced another replay that spread across social media before the final buzzer even sounded. Clips of Clark taking elbows, shoulders, forearms, and crushing screens were being shared almost instantly. And every new moment reopened the same argument about whether opponents were being allowed to cross a line that would never be tolerated in other situations. Her supporters insisted she was absorbing a level of physical punishment unlike anyone else in the league. Her critics pushed back by saying every superstar eventually has to earn respect through contact. That debate itself is nothing new in basketball. The NBA has spent decades romanticizing the idea of legends surviving brutal defenses before climbing to the top. Michael Jordan had to survive the Jordan rules. LeBron James entered the league carrying impossible expectations while defenders tested him every single night. Several respected basketball voices have leaned on that same explanation when discussing Clark. Their argument is simple. Nobody is bullying her, nobody is plotting to drive her out of the league, and nobody is targeting her because of personal hatred. In their eyes, she is simply living through the reality of becoming the biggest attraction in the sport. Every defender wants the satisfaction of being the one to slow her down, because that is what happens when someone arrives.
Process that. How did you go through that at a young age, coming into the NBA, where the
problem is that explanation becomes much harder to accept when the replay shows something very different from what the box score suggests. Against New York, one sequence quickly became the center of the entire debate. During an offensive possession near the basket, Breanna Stewart challenged Clark's shot with her arm extended. In real time, it happened fast enough that some viewers barely registered anything unusual. But once the slow-motion angles began circulating online, the contact became much more obvious. Stewart's hand clearly appeared to strike the side of Clark's face during the contest, sending Clark to the floor as she immediately turned toward the closest official expecting a whistle. Nothing came. No personal foul. No flagrant review. No extended conversation among the referees. And that is where the frustration exploded. Because fans were not treating this as one isolated missed call. They saw it as another example in an expanding collection of controversial moments involving Clark that kept ending the exact same way. What made the entire situation even stranger was the timing. Just one day earlier, Clark had reminded
the basketball play, but she still should have received some type of flagrant foul because it was a hit to the face. But
against New York's rival, she delivered one of the greatest individual performances the league has ever seen, finishing with a staggering 45 points and 10 assists. It was the first 45-point, 10-assist game in WNBA history, a performance that blended elite shot-making with incredible playmaking and instantly became one of the defining highlights of the season. Admiration from across the sports world came almost immediately. But one reaction stood out more than the rest. LeBron James wasted no time acknowledging what he had just witnessed. That did not surprise anyone who has followed the connection between the two over the past several years. LeBron has consistently shown support for Clark throughout her rise from college icon to professional superstar. Whenever she has hit another milestone, his social media has rarely stayed quiet for long. That shared understanding has created a unique connection between two athletes separated by leagues, but united by the reality of expectations that stretch far beyond basketball. Clark has even revealed that when injuries interrupted parts of her career, LeBron personally reached out to ask whether there was anyone he could
His
connect.
job is while players are going up to the rim, going up for layups, is to look at all
Those kinds of conversations rarely become public unless the athletes themselves choose to reveal them, which is why his support has felt like more than occasional online praise. It has looked more like genuine mentorship from someone who understands exactly how overwhelming nonstop attention can become. Because of that history, fans naturally started wondering what LeBron must have been thinking as he watched the same player he had praised less than 24 hours earlier take another controversial blow without any consequence. Whether people love Clark, criticize her, or simply watch out of curiosity, almost everyone agrees on one thing: she has become the biggest attraction in women's professional basketball. Some veterans have openly admitted that the attention surrounding her has created complicated reactions both inside and outside the sport. They argue that Clark deserves major credit for helping elevate the league, while also acknowledging that discussions about race, privilege, popularity, and media exposure have complicated how the public interprets everything she does. Those issues continue to influence the reaction to nearly every moment of her career, even when the conversation should simply be about basketball. At the same time, several former players have said they want Clark to succeed, not because success should belong to one person, but because
weird, not in the sense that the Indiana Fever didn't absolutely cook, that Kelsey Mitchell didn't go crazy, and that Caitlin Clark didn't have a lot of great highlights. But weird in
they
the
see rising television audiences, bigger sponsorship deals, increased salaries, and greater visibility as benefits that can eventually reach every roster in the WNBA. From that point of view, trying to diminish the league's biggest draw does not just hurt one player. It hurts everyone tied to the future of the sport. Unfortunately, that broader perspective disappeared almost as soon as the game tipped off. Barely 90 seconds had passed before another controversial moment arrived. Clark tried to fight through a screen and collided with Liberty center Jonquel Jones. The screen itself was ruled legal, but the contact was strong enough that Clark immediately reacted after getting hit in the leg. Instead of focusing on the collision, the officials gave Clark a technical foul for her response. That technical mattered far beyond a single possession. It became her sixth technical foul of the season, triggering a $1,000 fine and leaving her just 2 technicals away from an automatic suspension. Stephanie White, clearly aware of how expensive public criticism of referees can become, was later asked whether officials had explained the earlier no call involving Clark's leg. White said the explanation was simple: they believed Clark had initiated the contact. Music? That answer only seemed to deepen the frustration. From Indiana's point of view, the explanation did not really address what had happened on the floor. White stopped herself before going too far, joking that she was trying not to get fined, before returning to what has practically become the Fever's unofficial message anytime officiating becomes the story. They were asking for consistency. And that one word followed the game long after the final buzzer. Because consistency, not physicality, had become the real issue taking over basketball conversations across the country. In professional sports, consistency is everything. Players can adjust to almost any standard as long as they understand where the line is. Coaches build entire game plans around officiating tendencies. Defenders learn how much contact they can get away with. Stars understand when they are likely to get to the free throw line. The real frustration came from the belief that identical situations were producing different rulings depending on who happened to be involved. That growing anger was echoed by prominent voices across the sports world, many of whom argued that leagues have a responsibility to protect their biggest attractions without crossing into favoritism. And that distinction matters. Protecting stars is not the same thing as giving them special treatment. It is about enforcing the same rules in a way that protects player safety and the integrity of the game. History offers plenty of examples. When Michael Jordan became the defining face of the NBA, the league gradually moved to reduce some of the extreme physical punishment that had become normal. When franchise quarterbacks transformed the NFL into a more pass-driven league, new rules were introduced to reduce dangerous hits and extend careers. Those changes were not made because those players were considered above everyone else. They were made because the leagues understood that their brightest stars were also their biggest ambassadors. And that is what kept bringing LeBron James back into this discussion. Just days before the Fever Liberty showdown, during Fanatics Fest, LeBron joked about one of the most memorable confrontations of his own career. In 2021, while battling for a rebound, an accidental elbow from LeBron struck Isaiah Stewart in the face and left Stewart bloodied and enraged. Beneath the humor of retelling the story, though, was an important reminder: the NBA acted immediately. LeBron received a one-game suspension, even while insisting the contact was accidental, and Stewart was also suspended for aggressively chasing after him. Whether fans agreed with those punishments or not, the NBA made one thing crystal clear: contact to a player's face would be reviewed, examined, and addressed. Accountability was built into the process. The league acknowledged the seriousness of the moment and consequences followed. That is why so many fans could not stop comparing the two situations. They watched LeBron face discipline for an accidental play years earlier, then watched replay after replay of Clark taking clear contact to the face from Breanna Stewart without even prompting a review. To many observers, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Social media filled up with side-by-side clips, angry reactions, and endless posts questioning how two professional basketball leagues could look so different when handling similar moments involving facial contact. That spotlight only grows brighter because Clark's presence magnifies everything. Every officiating decision in her games carries extra weight. Every missed whistle spreads faster. Every controversial call feels bigger than the moment itself because it starts shaping the public image of the entire league. And then there is another layer to all of this. Clark is not just a talented rookie or a popular guard putting up numbers. To many fans, she is the face of women's basketball right now, whether everyone in the sport likes that framing or not. Every record she breaks, every rating she lifts, every sold-out arena she helps create only intensifies that reality. People can debate whether other veterans deserve more recognition. They can argue about championships, longevity, or resume. But being the face of a league is not always about who has been there longest. Sometimes it is about who moves the audience most powerfully in the present moment. That is why each controversial clip involving Clark generates such an outsized reaction. Fans are not only reacting to one elbow, one screen, one technical, or one missed whistle. They are reacting to what they believe those moments say about how the league is handling the player drawing its biggest spotlight. If the standard is going to be physical, then make it physical for everyone. If contact to the face is going to be reviewed, then review it every time. If emotional reactions are going to result in technical fouls, then enforce that standard across the board. That is the heart of the argument. Meanwhile, in the middle of all the noise, Indiana kept playing. The Fever kept battling. Clark kept competing through the contact, through the frustration, and through the attention that now follows every single game she plays. Kelsey Mitchell delivered a brilliant performance of her own, pouring in 33 points in just 29 minutes and missing only 4 shots, finishing 10 of 14 from the field. Her explosion helped keep Indiana in control and reminded everyone that this team is more than just one headline. Even so, the conversation after the game did not stay centered on the final score for very long. Clark did not need a dramatic post-game rant to make her point. The footage had already done that for her. The technical foul was still on her record. The fine still stood. And she remained just 2 technicals away from an automatic suspension. For many fans, that detail perfectly captured why this story refused to disappear. The Fever could celebrate another huge win, and Clark could keep adding to her growing legend. But none of that answered the larger question hanging over the season. Was the league truly applying the same standards to everyone on the floor? Or had the WNBA's biggest star somehow become the center of a pattern too obvious for fans to ignore any longer? Because that is the issue now. Not just one missed whistle. Not just one controversial night. But the growing belief that when Caitlin Clark is involved, the standard suddenly becomes harder to identify. And once fans begin to believe the rules are shifting depending on the player, the debate stops being about one game and starts becoming a test of the league's credibility itself.